This is a story called Smithy from a book called A Time to Remember by Peter Luck, and the book was put out in 1988. On 3 December 1906, the newly formed Bondi Life Saving Association gave its first demonstration of rescue using the line and reel. Just 11 days later, two young boys who had been swept out to sea were rescued by the novel method. One of them, who had almost drowned, gave his name as Charlie Smith. He had gone just that bit too far past the breakers and almost paid dearly for his taste of risk and adventure. But it didn't teach Charlie Smith any lessons. 30 years later, he would still be pushing his luck to the limit. Only by this time he would not be known as Charlie, but Sir Charles Kingsford Smith, better known to Australians as Smithy. There would be many more near misses for Smithy even before he was 20. As a teenager he served at Gallipoli, and as a pilot in the Royal Flying Corps he had 3 toes shot off. Immediately the war ended, Smithy suffered one of his greatest disappointments. He was refused permission to enter the £10,000 competition to fly from England to Australia. The Australian Prime Minister of the time, Billy Hughes, told the young flyer that he lacked the experience and the backing. To rub salt into the wound, the competition was won by 2 other young adventurers called Smith, Ross and Keith from Adelaide. Smithy continued his life of adventure and for a while barnstormed for the silent movies in Hollywood. But 1928 found him planning a feat more serious and more daring, in fact, the most audacious flight of all time. Lindbergh had just flown the Atlantic, but Smithy and his mate Charles wanted to be the first to fly across the Pacific from America to Australia. For £3,000 they bought a Fokker tri-motor monoplane, an enormous aircraft for its day. The plane had to be specially rebuilt for the flight. Smithy and recruited 2 Americans as crew, Harry Lyon, a navigator, and Jim Warner, an experienced radio operator. On 31 May 1928, when the Southern Cross left San Francisco, Smithy was at the controls. Ahead of the enthusiastic crew lay 8,000 nautical miles of flying. Conditions on board the plane were terrible. The vibration rattled their teeth. The constant thunder of the engines made it impossible to speak, and all communication was written by hand. Smithy and flew up front in the semi-open cockpit, exposed to the wind, rain and biting cold. After 27 hours they landed in Honolulu to be greeted by a battery of questions and welcoming speeches. They heard nothing. All 4 were temporarily deafened from the roar of the engines. By this time the whole world was beginning to hear about their progress. They flew through heavy storms to Fiji and then on to Brisbane. Smithy had achieved his dream in just 83 hours.